Mermaid 2023 is one of the most insulting pieces of garbage I've ever seen. It's insulting to my ears, it's insulting to my eyes, it's insulting to my intelligence, and worst of all, it's incredibly insulting to the original film. Every attempt the creators of this film made to quote-unquote update it only demonstrated their clear lack of understanding of what made the original work to begin with. And while this is certainly nowhere near the worst live-action Disney remake, that's really not saying much given how low the bar already is. I definitely don't think people should be giving this film a pass just because it's slightly more competent than, say, The Lion King or Beauty and the Beast remakes. It still shares many of the same problems that made the other remakes fail in their attempts to create the same experiences as their predecessors. Disney knows that as long as they can quickly pump out films that vaguely resemble their animated classics, they'll still get a steady stream of audience members who are like, hey, this reminds me of my childhood, so that must mean that it's good. These films are not designed to tell a story or create an emotional experience, they are corporate installments meant to generate as much profit as possible. And The Little Mermaid 2023 being slightly more tolerable than some of the other remakes does not make it an exception to this. Every single frame in this movie looks so ugly and dull compared to the original. And it's not like this is some kind of deliberate artistic decision, it's very obviously just there to hide the flaws in their shitty-ass computer animation, which unfortunately this movie is way too reliant on, because, I mean, how the hell else are you gonna get a live-action musical underwater?
Well, if you don't mind, what was one of the things that you really truly didn't know how you were going to solve to make this film work?
I just remember, I just, the logistics of the whole thing.
Yeah.
We wrote an outline and we came to LA and spent 2 months with everyone in this big space, all our creatives.
Yes.
And we just, how are we going to make the first step?
Gee, it's almost like The Little Mermaid was a film specifically designed for the medium of animation, and trying to recreate it with a bunch of blue screen and CGI is really fucking stupid. Look at how colorful and vibrant the animation is in the original. All the sea creatures have so much expression and personality, and despite the remake's attempts to look quote-unquote more realistic, all of the CGI looks so fake and ugly that it's incredibly distracting from the story and the characters. I mean, what is this? What is this? What is all this shit?
With the CGI, can you sort of talk about, because it really does look like you put the camera under the sea.
Sure, Jan.
And what's really frustrating is that I've seen so many people being more lenient towards this remake because they say the original wasn't that good to begin with, or that Ariel isn't a good character, or that the original somehow needed to be fixed. And I, for one, will not stand for this egregious slander of my favorite Disney movie. I know a lot of people have already dunked on the remake, and I previously made a vlog on it after I saw it in theaters, but I feel like there's so much about the original that is being overlooked and not really being as appreciated as it should. So I wanted to make this video and go in depth on why I love the original so much and how the remake completely misses the mark on every aspect of it. And since I'm going to be spending so long talking about the live-action remake, it's pretty much impossible to avoid talking about the controversy surrounding the film, namely the fact that they cast a black actress as Ariel. When this news was announced back in 2019, it sparked a huge backlash for being different from the original, since, as you can see, Ariel was white in the animated film. And then after that, people kind of forgot about it for a while, but then the controversy took off again once the teaser trailer came out, like this wasn't already common knowledge at that point. And even though I think this whole controversy is stupid and shouldn't really be a thing, it ironically worked great for the marketing of the film, since it's probably the only thing most people are going to remember about it in the long run. Basically, I don't care what race a fictional character is, and while I personally don't think that Halle Bailey was the best choice for this role, and I'll get into that later, I do not think that her race should be a factor in that decision. The only time I think the race of an actor should really matter is if they're portraying a real person, or if the character's race and ethnicity has a particular significance to them. For example, in the comics, America Chavez was an Afro-Latina. Her mother that gave birth to her was black, and her being black played just as much of a role in her character's cultural identity as her being Latina, which is why I wasn't super thrilled with the fact that they cast an actress who was not Afro-Latina to play her in Multiverse of Madness. Other than that, though, no, I don't think the race of a character matters. Like, Nick Fury was originally white in the comics, but now, could you honestly imagine anyone other than Samuel L. Jackson playing him? I also think that actors of color get a bunch of very unwarranted criticism for being quote-unquote diversity hires. Like, there are so many times that actors of color are cast in significant roles, and it's just automatically assumed that the studio is trying to push some kind of political agenda. Like, can these people not just fucking exist? Do you seriously not understand how racist that is? So yeah, all in all, I think this controversy is stupid, and if you're actually spending energy getting angry at it, then you're stupid. With that said, that absolutely does not give Disney the right to assume that any and all criticism of this movie must automatically be rooted in racism. Like, I remember seeing people making a bunch of posts about how many dislikes the trailer for the remake got on YouTube, and how Josh Gad was calling people out for being racist. And yeah, don't get me wrong, there definitely are plenty of people out there who are just pissy that they cast a black actress as Ariel, but I honestly think the majority of people who disliked it just thought it looked fucking bad.
Look how bad this looks! You can't see any detail! There's no... Zoom in on this, Olivia. You can't see any fucking detail.
Man was drowning. I had to save him.
Oh, God, you're acting. The way she looks up to... Oh, this is very funny. Oh, my God. The director said, can you respond to him as though you're, like, 3 years old?
She got legs, you idiot.
Ew, God! Look at is this Flounder? Is that Flounder?
Just because there are stupid people out there who are mad at your film for stupid reasons does not shield your film from criticism. There are plenty of legitimate problems with this remake, and you cannot just wave them off by calling all of your critics racist. On top of that, it is honestly laughable hearing the film's director, Rob Marshall, attempting to justify this film's existence outside of just being an easy cash grab for Disney.
She is working to build a bridge to break, the down the wall between her and someone that's different than her, and so that sort of sense of acceptance and tolerance, as you say, John, was very profound, and so we saw, wow, we have an opportunity to do something sort of that has a deeper message.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
What, like the original animated film didn't already do that? What deeper message are you talking about here? It's not like you're telling a completely different story from the animated film. It is the same characters and the same plot line. Sure, you made some changes to the script here and there, but the bare bones of the story are still the same. Do you not understand what a remake is? He also seems to have this idea in his head that audiences will just automatically connect with the remake more because we're looking at real actors as opposed to a cartoon.
At the same time, this is a completely different genre. So you're in a live action form. There's so much more opportunity to expand, to deepen, to actually infuse with true emotion. You have real people there. And
what sense does that make? What makes us connect with a film isn't seeing live actors as opposed to animation, it's the story. Inside Out is an animated movie, and I know the characters I'm seeing aren't really there, but I still connect with it way more than, say, A Wrinkle in Time, because it's a better movie. You don't see many people saying they connected more with the live-action Last Airbender movie as opposed to the animated series just because they were looking at real people. This is so stupid. I really hate this idea Hollywood has that animation is somehow inherently for kids and live action is for adults, so therefore any live action remake must automatically be the more adult version. Like, hey, you must be embarrassed to want to watch this thing because it's a cartoon and cartoons are for babies, so watch this version instead and you won't have to be embarrassed anymore. Like, it's bad enough that Hollywood makes animators work insane hours for absolute garbage pay, but on top of that, they don't even give their work the respect it deserves, even when so many of the best and most thought-provoking films and series that have come out in recent years have been animated. Like, I swear to God, every single time Hollywood makes a live-action remake of a movie or show, the original always ends up being 10 times smarter and funnier and better written and more sophisticated and just superior in every single possible way. Seriously, how many times can you keep making the exact same mistake over and over again and not learn a thing from it? As long as it makes money, apparently. Anyway, let's dive into this piece of shit so I can dissect exactly why this movie is a complete failure in every way imaginable. In the original film, we open with the song Fathoms Below, in which the sailors traveling with Prince Eric sing about the legends of merfolk and King Triton.
I'll tell you a tale of the bottomless blue and its haze to the starboard heave ho. Look out, lad, a mermaid be waiting for you in mysterious fathoms below.
This song is the film's way of giving the audience a preview of the world we're about to see. We're started off in a world that we're familiar with, namely the world of humans, before the film takes us to Ariel's underwater kingdom. In the remake, the song isn't completely cut from the film, as we briefly see Eric and the sailors singing it when Ariel finds his ship, but by then we're already well familiar with the underwater world, so it doesn't really serve the same purpose anymore. Instead, we open with a quote from the original Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale, because all movies that open with a quote are important, I guess. Also, remember how the original waited until we got underwater to show the film's title so that the score builds and matches with the colorful animation? Yeah, screw that, let's just show the title over some boring water. Building atmosphere? Pfft, what's that? We then have a really weird opening sequence where we see the tail of a creature that's supposed to look like a mermaid swimming in the water with some enchanting sound and music that sounds like it's building up to something, and then it's just suddenly cut off by one of the sailors throwing a harpoon in the water, and it turns out it's actually just a dolphin.
Got him!
Like, the change in tone is so abrupt that it almost comes off as unintentionally funny. Unless, was that supposed to be funny? Were they trying to make us laugh there? I don't get it. What a bizarre way to start the film off. I would have at least been curious to hear Rob Marshall's justification for some of these decisions, but neither the Blu-ray nor the DVD for the live-action remake has a director's commentaries, so I guess even he couldn't be bothered to sit down and rewatch this piece of shit. Speaking of the DVD, I love that this was the best quote they could find to put on the back. Like, if all this movie had going for it is that it captures the magic of the original, then why wouldn't I just, watch the original? It sounds so unenthusiastic, too. Like, they didn't even put an exclamation point at the end or anything. They're just like, yeah, sure, it captures the magic of the original or something. Anyways, we're then introduced to Prince Eric and his advisor Grimsby. In the original, we don't get a whole lot of dialogue from these two characters in this scene, but we still get a pretty good sense of who they are. Prince Eric is adventurous and carefree, while Grimsby is more of a stick in the mud who tries to tone down Eric's recklessness. But apparently in the remake, Rob Marshall decided that Eric needed an entire overhaul because he was quote-unquote a two-dimensional character.
When you look at the animated film, everyone will agree that the character of Eric is a two-dimensional character. It's just there's nothing there. And we thought this just cannot be the way it is. This is a live-action film. We need to understand what he wants, what his journey is.
This is the point from both Rob Marshall and Jonah Hauer-King, who plays Eric in the remake, that I adamantly disagree with. Like, yes, Eric definitely could have gotten a little more screen time in the original, but we still got a decent understanding of who he was. We also saw a lot of the parallels between him and Ariel. They're both headstrong and willing to go after what they want, even when everyone around them is telling them no. Good filmmakers know how to make the smallest bit of screen time go a long way when it comes to establishing character.
Jonah, I love what they do with Eric in this movie. He's not just there.
Yes, Eric was totally just there in the original. He definitely didn't save everyone in the end or move the plot along in any way. Now, of course, that's not to say I'm opposed to the idea of adding more depth to Eric's character, but the remake just does such a terrible job of it and then pats itself on the back like they're doing this character such a big favor. They added this extra stuff in where I guess in this version Eric was adopted. Like, he was found from a shipwreck as a baby, and that's why he likes sailing so much.
May I remind you that a deadly shipwreck first brought you to us, and now I almost lost you to one the other day.
It just feels like such an unnecessary addition. Like, did we really need to give him a tragic backstory as a reason for why he likes exploring? Could he not just be adventurous for the sake of being adventurous? Not only that, but this doesn't really create much of a character arc for him either. We don't see a whole lot of how this impacts his relationship with his mother or Grimsby, or even really what he wants to do with his life. I mean, does he like being royalty? Does he even want to take up any royal responsibilities? I don't know, because it's never explored. I mean, there's a brief scene later on where he starts to talk about it with Ariel, but then he's abruptly cut off and it's never brought up again. Just dumping more exposition onto a character's backstory doesn't automatically make them more interesting or fleshed out. There has to be some kind of payoff or emotional investment. Otherwise, all you're accomplishing is just wasting our time, something that the live-action remakes are unfortunately very good at. Also, Grimsby has a lot less personality in the remake compared to the original, and he's honestly pretty forgettable. He's sort of supposed to be to Eric what Triton is to Ariel, someone who tries to get them to be reasonable instead of chasing after what they see as wild fantasies. But in this version, they added the character of Eric's mother, who already kind of fills that role anyway. It honestly seems like you could just cut Grimsby out of the remake entirely, and you wouldn't really be missing all that much. Aside from maybe letting the writers show off how good they are at getting exposition on the clunkiest way possible.
You won't stop worrying so much about me, Grimsby!
Call me selfish, but I do not want to tell the Queen that her son fell overboard on my watch, and on his birthday of all days.
Something else you might have noticed about the scene in the original is that the color palette is much more muted and gray compared to the majority of the film. This is something that die-hard defenders of the live-action remake were pointing out because they were so desperate to convince people that it was good well before it even came out. So what if the trailer looks super dark and gray and you can barely see anything? The original looked like that too! What they conveniently fail to mention is that A, this was only done in certain scenes, the majority of the film was generally bright and colorful, and B, when this was done in the original, it was done for a reason.
We tried to keep color very low-key. It's kind of an overcast day because we wanted to kind of save the color for when we went underwater.
We shot this with sort of traditional fog filters on the animation camera, just to give it the feeling of a foggy day.
The muted color palettes were done sparingly in the original and were only there to either establish contrast or a somber or scary tone. In the remake, every goddamn scene looks like this. It's gross. Also, at least in the original, when the scenes looked darker, you could still make out what the fuck was going on. The lighting in the remake is so bad that I literally had to squint to even see anything in some of the nighttime scenes. Although, to be fair, I think the less I see of some of these CGI models, the better. So now we're moving on to the introduction of Ariel's sisters. Oh my god, that looks so convincing. I totally believe that they're actually underwater and not just in front of a blue screen. Wow. In the original, the sisters were putting on a concert with Sebastian and introduced themselves with the song The Daughters of Triton, which is also cut from the remake. There's a cute little joke where each of the sisters' names start with the letter A to match the underwater kingdom of Atlantico where they live. They even named some of the sisters after real people, like Adrena was co-director Rob Clemens' aerobics teacher, and of course Alana was a reference to Alan Menken. But in the remake we have, Perla and Indira? Also, Triton's daughters are all different races, even though they're supposed to be sisters? Unless, like, are they adopted? Are mermaid genetics just fucking weird? I don't know. Not only does this make absolutely no sense, but it's so obviously a marketing ploy so Disney can try and sell more dolls. Hey there, unspecified little girl. One of these mermaids probably looks like you. So that means you should beg your parents to buy you our toys. Purchase our products. Consume!
I hope that people walk away with feeling inspired and love and joy and happiness.
And most importantly, wanting to buy all of our merchandise. You can buy the Lego set for the low price of $160 fucking dollars today. This is also where we meet King Triton, who is played in this version by Javier Bardem. I was initially going to say that he was the most poorly adapted character in the remake, but then I remembered that Sebastian and Scuttle also existed, so let's just call it a three-way tie of absolute horse shit. In the original film, Triton is stern and commanding, but also has a warmth and playfulness to him that makes him an easy character to like. Even if we don't always agree with him, we can tell that he really cares for his daughters and is doing what he believes is best for Ariel. In the remake, Javier Bardem literally reads every line like he is stoned off his ass.
You can go find her. I have tried to understand you long enough. Promise me you will never look for him again.
Promise me you'll never look for him again. Yeah, I really love how he, like, mumbles all of his lines and you can barely make out what he's saying. It, like, really adds to the emotion of the scene and you can really feel the, like, motivation of his character and stuff. I'm serious, his delivery is so dead and lifeless compared to that of Kenneth Mars, who did the voice of Triton in the original movie, that it's honestly just depressing. Really, all I need to do is just play these lines back to back for you to hear just how much character and personality is lost in the remake.
Shark? So you went to the shipwrecks again?
You went up to the surface again, didn't you? Didn't you?
But as long as you live in my ocean, you'll obey my rules.
As long as you live under my ocean, you'll obey my rules.
He's a human. You're a mermaid.
He's a human. You're a mermaid.
What have I done?
What have I done? What have I done?
You see it because everything shows on Javier's face and you feel what he feels.
I don't know what his deal was, but he spends every moment on camera looking like he just does not want to be there. It's so distracting and unintentionally hilarious at times that it really takes so much away from the film, especially because the relationship between Triton and Ariel really is supposed to be at the heart of the story. Both Jodie Benson and Kenneth Mars sound so passionate and energetic in the original that you have no trouble empathizing with these characters and caring about their father-daughter relationship. But here?
This obsession with humans has to stop.
I just want to know more about them.
You know all you need to know.
I barely know anything.
You both sound like you're reading these lines for the first time. If the characters don't sound like they give a shit, then why should the audience? Now, I don't want to bash on Javier Bardem too much because I genuinely do think he's a spectacular actor who's given some truly brilliant performances in the past, and hey, I'm sure him taking on this role made his kids really happy. Ultimately, though, I think it would have been better off if the character were played by somebody who didn't read all of their lines like a zombie. So anyway, in the original, Sebastian was holding a concert with all of the sisters where Ariel was supposed to make her big debut, and there's this clamshell opening up where she's supposed to come out, but oh no, she isn't there! But in the remake, instead of the concert, we have the Coral Moon, which I guess is like some meeting where all the sisters get together and talk about, like, stuff that's going on. So Triton's just talking to the sisters and he sees that there's an empty chair.
Where is Ariel?
Like, what, it took you that long to notice she wasn't there? I also love how the score is very obviously trying to compensate for how uninteresting this whole affair is. Like, they're playing this overwhelmingly whimsical music over what is effectively just people sitting in chairs. Seriously, the creativity of an underwater concert was so much more interesting than whatever the hell this is. And then, of course, we're introduced to Sebastian. And with Samuel E. Wright having brought such an iconic personality and charm to the character, clearly we need an actor who can bring that same level of charisma. And yeah, actually, fuck it, let's just have Daveed Diggs be Sebastian because he's famous and people want to see movies with famous people in them, despite his downright embarrassing attempts at doing a Jamaican accent.
Humans? Who say anything about humans? Down here, how would they breathe?
Seriously, this guy does not sound like Sebastian. He sounds like someone trying to do an impression of Sebastian and failing miserably.
She got legs, you idiot!
Oh my god, what accent is that even supposed to be? Scottish? I want to change my fate, you idiot. I know that I'm certainly not the first person to say this, but I really hate this trend of just casting famous people for voice acting roles instead of, you know, actual voice actors. See, we can't have some unknown voice actor even though they're way more qualified to play these roles because we need big names on our posters to fill seats in the theater. Hey, well, it's a little secret here, okay, Disney? You know what's actually gonna get people to go see your movies? Making a good fucking product!
That was tight.
It is so embarrassing that they think this is even remotely comparable to how memorable Samuel E. Wright was.
Teenagers, they think they know everything. You give them an inch, they swim all over you.
Children, you give them an inch, they swim all over you.
The Sea King will never know. You won't tell him, I won't tell him. I will stay in one piece.
You won't tell him, I won't tell him, and I will stay in one piece, you got it?
Bye. What a soft shell I'm turning out to be.
Oh my, what a soft shell I am turning out to be.
There is not a single moment in Wright's performance where you don't hear the character Sebastian, but in the remake, all I hear is someone awkwardly struggling to pull off an accent.
We got no time to lose. We just gotta find a way to get the two of you together.
And that's before we even get into how god-awful the character design looks.
David, what was your reaction like when you first saw Sebastian?
I thought he was super cute. Yeah, like I sort of thought he was adorable.
Oh yeah, that's real adorable, alright. I'm totally gonna hang this picture up in my room. It's not gonna give me nightmares at all. Apparently being photorealistic was just so important that we needed to have all of our animated character models have zero emotion on any of their faces.
This image we found was one of those crabs where the eyes were actually raised above the shell. And it made him look really worried.
Where? What about just placing the character's eyes on top of his head makes him look worried? Seriously, he looks no different in the Under the Sea sequence than he does in Ursula's lair. Look how much emotion is on Sebastian's face in the original. Look at how energetic the animation is. Obviously, real crabs don't actually have teeth, but look at how much it adds to his facial expressions. Having the look and movement of the character be confined to what a real crab would do just makes him so much less interesting to watch. Even the co-director of the original film, John Musker, bashed the design, saying, "You could look at live animals in a zoo and they have more expression." He also pointed out the watered-down character is barely focusing on Ariel and Triton's relationship and how corporately calculated remakes like this are. So you know shit's bad when a guy like Musker speaks out against a company he worked for 40 years. And I know pretty much everyone has already made fun of how terrible the character models look in this movie, but it really does highlight why these live-action remakes are such a fundamentally bad idea in the first place. Animation allows you to get away with things that you can't do in live action. With animation, you can make things like a talking crab or teapot look visually appealing. In live action, it looks fucking terrifying! Why would you think that this is something anyone would want to look at for 2 hours? What is wrong with you? So now we're introduced to Ariel, played in this version by Halle Bailey. Her singing is spectacular, her acting, unfortunately, is not.
Whoa, look at all that. I would love to see that. Can't. Flounder. No! What do you mean?
I was already very skeptical of Bailey's casting when it was announced, but unlike Terminally Online Idiots, it was not because of her race, but because of the fact that she was primarily a recording artist and not an actress.
I consider myself like a singer-musician first, and I've never seen myself on a big screen like this. So this was very different for me.
And that's not to say that a lack of experience automatically means that you're going to give a bad performance, but her line reads are just so flat and dull. Again, much like Javier Bardem, all I need to do is contrast her performance with that of Jodie Benson from the original for you to hear just how lame it sounds by comparison.
My father's gonna kill me. Oh my gosh, my father's gonna kill me! You don't know that. You don't even know him. Look at this. Whoa. It's the smallest trident I've ever seen. Oh my gosh! Have you ever seen anything so wonderful in your entire life? Wow.
Every time I hear Rob Marshall or producer John DeLuca talk about why she was cast, their justification always seems to boil down to the fact that she just has a nice voice.
I want to take you back a little bit to the 2019 Grammys when you heard Halle for the first time.
John DeLuca and myself are watching the Grammys, and Chloe and Halle start to sing Where Is the Love? A beautiful song. And I turned to John, I said, wait, is that Ariel? So she came to New York, maybe just a few weeks later, and auditioned for us. She walked in. I said, would you like to sing or read first? She goes, I'd like to sing first. I was like, of course she wants to sing first. She shut her eyes and started to sing. By the end, I was in tears.
Wow. They even straight up admitted that Halle Bailey was the first person they auditioned for the role. And yeah, I know they obviously auditioned other people for the role as well, but it honestly seems like they just went, cool, we found someone who can sing, our job here is done. Also, her being Beyonce's protege probably didn't hurt either, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, of course, being able to sing is important, otherwise you're just gonna get horribly auto-tuned crap like in the Beauty and the Beast remake.
There must be more than this provincial.
But is having someone who actually knows how to embody the character not also important? Jodie Benson was cast in the original film because she was a Broadway actress. She was someone who had, actual experience in musical theater. To be fair, though, Bailey's acting isn't the only reason this version of Ariel comes off as so bland. The writing is very much to blame as well. The original Ariel was written to resemble a real teenage girl.
Ariel's grotto is kind of like a teenage girl's bedroom, and she's got her poster of kind of like a rock star was the prince, and that was sort of the person that she was infatuated with. And we were trying to draw the analogy with modern teenagers. And
I approached her with the idea that she was a real teenager with genuine teenage angst about, I'm still a little girl, but I want to be a big girl.
She was kind and loving, but there were also times she could be a bit bratty and show some attitude as well.
Ariel, no! No, she's a demon! She's a monster!
Why don't you go tell my father? You're good at that.
And this is exactly what separated her from the previous Disney princesses at the time. It made her feel real. It made her interesting. But in the remake, the writers seem completely against the idea of Ariel having any flaws whatsoever. There is never a time where the script allows her to talk back or be frustrated, and any time she's supposed to be angry, it sounds incredibly half-assed.
He doesn't even hear me.
When I went back and watched the behind the scenes of the original movie, I took a look at the clips of Sherry Stoner, who was the live-action reference for Ariel's animators. Fun fact, Sherry Stoner also did the voice of Slappy Squirrel in Animaniacs. And now I honestly kind of want to see Slappy's reaction to this movie.
Remember my song in the swamp when I was like, whap, chicka, whap, whap.
What a yutz.
Anyway, a lot of the mannerisms that Sherry Stoner made on camera made their way into Ariel's animation and played a big part in the development of her personality.
There's one point between takes and she just went, and her hair kind of moved. That's Ariel.
Think about it, could you imagine Halle Bailey's Ariel doing something like that? All of the personality is completely sucked out and replaced with a hollow, uninteresting shell of a character. The only reason I can think of for why they decided to go this direction is because of the criticism some people have that Ariel is somehow a bad character or not a good role model because of the decisions she makes, so they're trying to make her seem as innocent and harmless as possible in this version. And this is the big problem I have with people who use this argument to criticize the original movie. I'm sorry, but I think this argument is just plain stupid. Yes, Ariel's decision to make a deal with Ursula is reckless, and she does act selfish at times, but newsflash, everyone acts that way from time to time, especially when you're young. People make mistakes and bad decisions sometimes. That doesn't mean you're a bad person or that you can't still be a good role model, that's just life. We still root for Ariel because we know her heart is in the right place. We see her trying to get her father to be more open-minded and not see all humans as evil. On top of that, she's curious, she likes to learn about things, she defends the people she cares about, she's not afraid to stand up for what she believes in. These are all admirable qualities that make her not only an interesting character, but a good role model as well. I don't understand why Disney keeps insisting that all of their female leads nowadays have to be these beacons of perfection who can do no wrong. It's not realistic and it's not interesting to watch. It also doesn't help that the design of the character is incredibly dull and uninspired compared to the original. I think anyone can agree that Ariel's fire engine red hair is easily her most iconic feature. Like, you see that hair and you immediately know who it is. Incidentally, Ariel was originally supposed to be blonde, but the hair color didn't look so good in the scenes underwater that were more darkly lit, so they ended up going with red. I think this was a good choice not only aesthetically, but also because giving the main character such an unnatural hair color really makes them visually pop out. Kinda like how you can tell who the main character is in an anime just from the way they look. But in the live-action version, Ariel's hair is kinda gingery at best. Sometimes, depending on the lighting, which again is usually shit. Yeah, I really don't get why it was so difficult for them to just give her actually red hair, especially considering that the hair was literally done in post half the movie for all the underwater scenes anyways. Like, I've seen plenty of fan art of Halle Bailey as Ariel with the red hair that looks way better than anything we got in the actual movie. It also doesn't help that they reportedly spent over $150,000 on the extensions for Halle Bailey's hair when it was actually shot in real life. You spent $150,000 on her hair and you couldn't even dye it the correct color? Think of all of the starving children we could have fed with that money. If you look at the original Ariel lined up with the rest of her sisters, she easily stands out. When you look at the live-action Ariel with her sisters, she really doesn't stand out much at all. Honestly, a good number of the other sisters look like they had much more thought and care put into their designs. If I knew nothing about the Little Mermaid and just saw this picture, I would honestly think one of them was the main character. But I guess we apparently can't have the fire engine red hair because we need to be more realistic. And by more realistic, we mean dull and boring as all hell. So basically, yeah, as I've stated before, the problem with the live-action version of Ariel is not the race of the actress they cast, but rather the fact that this Ariel is not well written, she's not well acted, and she's not well designed. They also did a bunch of other dumb shit with this character that I don't like, but I'll get to that later. Wait, where was I? Oh yeah, right. Anyway, in this scene, Ariel is exploring a shipwreck with her terrifying Satan spawn of a friend, Flounder.
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
Now in this version, Flounder is voiced by Jacob Tremblay, and out of all of the casting decisions in the remake, this one is probably the least offensive, especially since Tremblay sounds almost identical to Jason Marin, who did the voice of Flounder in the original.
Ariel, wait for me! Ariel, wait for me!
That's not to say his performance is anything spectacular. A good amount sounds pretty stiff and reserved, like I'm just hearing a kid in a recording studio and not an actual character.
We aren't supposed to be this far from the palace, Ariel. Yeah, great. Now let's get out of here.
Look at this.
Whoa, whoa.
And honestly, the quality of some of these reads makes a little more sense when you learn that apparently Tremblay didn't even know he was being recorded.
When we were doing the lines, I didn't know that we were actually recording it, so I thought it was a rehearsal.
What? Well, that was a good rehearsal, everybody. Cinema and cut! Oh shit, we were actually recording that? Yup, good work everyone. Do you want me to do a couple more takes or? Nope, it's fine. Are you sure? 'Cause, I mean, I could do it right now. Won't take long. Nah. But I mean, I really feel like I could. Look, kid, we just need to sound cute to make up for how butt ugly your character design's gonna look. Okay. Oh yeah, and on that note, who in the fuck thought this character design was a good idea? Like, I remember back before the first trailer came out, there was a fan-made picture going around on Twitter of what a live-action Flounder might look like, and everyone was making fun of how bad it looked. You know what? I actually preferred that to what we ended up getting. Say what you want about this Flounder, at least he has some expression in his face. At least he doesn't just have these dead, lifeless eyes staring into your soul. And no matter how much Rob Marshall claims to have done this to give the movie a photo-real look, that argument falls apart pretty quickly when you realize that this isn't even remotely what an actual flounder fish looks like.
Now, flounder, what's interesting is flounder, this isn't really a flounder. Flounders are maybe the ugliest fish I've ever seen in my life. They're flat and have one eye. They look like that. Like one eye like this, and they swim like, it's just, I couldn't do it.
Why wouldn't you just take more creative liberties and give this character a better design when you literally just admitted that you didn't want to make Flounder look like a real flounder anyway? I could maybe forgive some of the decisions made in the name of being more realistic if they were at least consistent. But when you're just picking and choosing when that actually applies to your movie out of convenience, then it just makes it feel even more pointless. Yeah, we really wanted to make this movie look like real life so the audience could feel like they were really underwater with real fish. Unless one of those fish is ugly, then fuck you, we'll do whatever we want. Why? So as Ariel and Flounder explore the creepy looking shipwreck, Ariel keeps trying to reassure Flounder that nothing is going to happen, but wouldn't you know it, a shark attacks them and they have to escape. And I swear to God, they play the most generic stock action music imaginable. In the original, the score was deliberately written to accompany the action on screen, essentially acting as sound effects. Yeah, screw that, let's just go with this easily forgettable garbage that could be put over literally anything. Also, isn't it weird how in the original the background is all dark and muted colors, but the characters are still bright and vivid, so the contrast makes them easily stand out? It's almost like the animators actually cared about you being able to see what was going on instead of just trying to cover up a bunch of shitty CGI. So after Ariel and Flounder manage to escape, they meet up with Scuttle to learn more about the items they found in the shipwreck. In the original, Scuttle was voiced by Buddy Hackett. Here, Disney has replaced this comedy legend with Awkwafina.
Guess what I went deep diving for? Your love and your validity. I love you, Sebastian, and I want to get married to you, and I want to do it in Vegas, and I want my family to be there as witnesses.
I genuinely do not understand why they thought this was a good casting choice. I mean, did they just think it would be funny because her stage name is a pun on a water bottle? Water, ocean, mermaids, I honestly would not be surprised if that were legitimately the case. You see, in the original, the creative team insisted on getting a voice for Scuttle that could actually be funny when he improvised and knew how to make actual jokes.
Buddy Hackett was actually, there was a different voice for Scuttle originally. Our boss, Jeffrey Katzenberg, didn't like the other voice we had. It's like, guys, get a comedian. That's what we did on Oliver. Richard Mulligan. We got him and the character came alive. Find a comedian.
Instead, with Awkwafina, we get this.
No, we've discussed this. I don't like it when you call me an idiot. Why don't you tell me something nice? Hey, Scuttle, your feathers look...
Disney, I don't know if you know this, but just rambling off whatever dumb shit comes into your head is not funny. You need to try a little harder than that. But obviously the most notable change to Scuttle is that in this version, Scuttle isn't a seagull, but rather a diving bird. In the original, it's established very early on that Ariel frequently goes to the surface despite her father not allowing it, which is how she meets Scuttle. There's a line in the film when Ariel goes to see Eric's ship where she says, "I've never seen a human this close before," implying that this isn't the first time that she's gone to observe the humans. But in this version, apparently Rob Marshall wanted to make it so that Ariel had actually never been to the surface before, so that when she finally does go to see Eric's ship, it's not only her first time seeing humans, but also her first time being above water. Apparently it's better storytelling. Obviously, in order to make this change work, they would have to make it so that Scuttle comes to Ariel underwater instead of her coming to Scuttle, hence the change in species. But wait a minute, how the hell can this bird be underwater talking for minutes at a time without needing to come back up for air? I thought this was supposed to be the more realistic version. That doesn't seem very realistic to me. This change honestly just causes a lot of things to not really make sense, and the way the writers tried to fix this is incredibly sloppy. In the original, when Flounder comes to Ariel's defense during Triton's lecture, he accidentally admits that they were talking with Scuttle, which is what tips Triton off that they went to the surface. But in this version, since they don't go to the surface, instead Triton realizes that they went to see shipwrecks because Flounder mentions the shark.
We were exploring, and a shark chased us?
Shark? So you went to the shipwrecks again?
Because apparently sharks don't live anywhere else in the ocean? Like what, is there just some kind of city that all the sharks established around this shipwreck because it looked foreboding? Also, doesn't Ariel's hesitation to go to the surface, like, completely change everything that we fundamentally understand about her as a character?
So won't let you go to the surface, huh?
No, it's forbidden.
Who decided that Ariel suddenly cares about what her father lets her do? I mean, I kind of thought the whole point of her character was that she was supposed to be rebellious. Yeah, in the original, Ariel disobeys her father, and some people didn't like that because disobeying your parents is bad, so we need to make it so that she's a better role model and she doesn't disobey her father, except when it's convenient for the plot. Even though that goes against literally everything that made this character interesting and separated her from other Disney princesses at the time. I related to Ariel much more as a character because her flaws made her feel real. How am I supposed to relate to a character whose only purpose is to be as marketable and inoffensive as humanly possible? Hey guys, it's Disney. Don't worry, because we want you to know that we're moving past the old sexist stereotypes and teach little girls that they just need to be pretty faces. I mean, don't get me wrong, you still need to be pretty, but now you also need to be smart, selfless, talented, good at fighting, a leader, completely flawless, and basically just naturally good at literally everything from the get-go. This is a trend that needs to die. This also leads into probably the biggest criticism of the original, namely that it's somehow sexist or anti-feminist because it's just about a girl who changes herself to get a guy.
The Little Mermaid is a beautiful story about a young woman changing her core identity to please a man. Let's not forget about that, people.
The Little Mermaid is sexist because it's sending the message that girls need to change who they are so they can get the approval of men. Except that's not what it's saying. Like, at all. I am honestly baffled at how anyone can unironically think that's the message the filmmakers were going for. Ariel did not just want to become human because of Prince Eric. Her motivations were established very early on in the film. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but there's kind of this whole musical number where Ariel explains why she finds humans so fascinating and wants to become part of their world. You know, the one that takes place before she even meets Prince Eric. Seriously, did you watch the movie? Also, did this article seriously just call Prince Eric mediocre? You listen here, the Daily Targa. My man did not jump onto a burning ship to save his dog for you to disrespect his character like this. The motherfucking audacity! I honestly think the people who have this take are the kind of people who will just look for any stupid thing to get offended by so they can go online and complain about how problematic every piece of media they watch is. I've always found this to be an incredibly cheap and shallow reading of the film. And thankfully, the people working on the remake have enough respect for the original to recognize that this is a completely shallow interpretation. Oh wait, no, they're actually just saying the same bullshit. Yeah, it's not just about her leaving the ocean for a boy. Now it's about her freedom and what she wants. Newsflash, that's always what the film was about. You literally have added nothing interesting or original to the story, so you have to literally straight up lie about the original to make it seem like you did. And the ironic thing is that this change that they made with Ariel's interaction with humans actually goes against this narrative that they're trying to push. In the original, we already know that Ariel wanted to be with humans and learn more about them. Her falling in love with Eric isn't what made her want to become human, it only added to a desire that she already had. But here, if you're making it so that her seeing Eric is the first time she's ever been to the surface and seen a human with her own eyes, then yeah, it kind of does make it seem like he's the only reason she wants to become human. So not only is this supposed improvement to the original completely unwarranted, but the filmmakers are actively contradicting themselves with their own writing. But because people apparently lack any critical thinking skills, they quickly ate up this idea that the remake was a more feminist version because that's what the Disney Corporation is telling us, so it must be true! Truly, Disney has mastered the Taylor Swift method of performative activism. It doesn't matter what you actually do, as long as you market yourself as a feminist activist, people will believe you! To be completely fair, I want to clarify that after watching plenty of interviews with Rob Marshall and the cast, I don't think it was anyone's intention to bash on the original. Like, I don't want to make it seem like everyone was just sitting there going, yeah, the movie fucking sucks, am I right? You can tell that they do genuinely love the original film and have a lot of respect for the source material they're working off of, unlike some other people. But there's still this attitude of, yeah, the original was good and all, but we can do better that just pisses me off. Good adaptations are born out of love and respect for the original source material. Of course you can make changes, but there needs to be a purpose for them, as well as an understanding of why things were the way they were in the original. If you're going in with the mindset that the original is something that needs to be quote-unquote fixed, then all you're going to do is alienate fans of the original. There is a reason people love the original so much, and it is not just because of childhood nostalgia. One of the first test screenings for the animated film was an all-adult screening, and they loved it. People connect with this movie because it has enjoyable characters as well as good writing and music. It was already perfect. Nothing about this movie needed to be fixed. If you truly understood what made the original work so well, you would have either done something completely different with this fairy tale that hasn't been done before, or you would have just left it the fuck alone. I want to die. In the original, Scuttle is something of a lovable doofus who genuinely cares about Ariel and likes spending time with her and feeling useful to her, even though it's pretty clear he doesn't really know what he's talking about.
Now, the Snorflat dates back to prehistorical times when humans used to sit around and stare at each other all day. Got very boring.
The movie knows how to keep him in the story just enough to add a bit of humor and charm without him overstaying his welcome and becoming stale.
Oh, I can't make out a heartbeat.
In the remake, Scuttle's entire characterization basically just revolves around one joke. She's annoying. That's it. That's her entire character.
Wow, chicka, wow, wow, chicka, wow, wow. Hey, wake up, wake up, wake up! I've been looking and I thought I found you because I heard, but then I saw it wasn't you, it was her.
Look at how annoying I am. I'm so obnoxious and I irritate everyone around me. Laugh at me. Laugh at me. I'm so annoying. Aren't you laughing at how annoying I am? Isn't that funny? No, it's just annoying.
Hideous.
It's very obvious that the filmmakers apparently think Awkwafina is just the funniest goddamn thing ever, so they're trying to shove her into as much as the film as humanly possible, including giving her her own song.
You'll be like, what? When I drop that scuttlebutt.
We'll get to that later. So after Sebastian finds Ariel and reminds her of the coral moon, which leads to this pretty funny reaction from her.
Oh no.
Oh no! We get our first look at Ursula, who seems to be watching Ariel through Flotsam and Jetsam's eyes. In this version, she's played by Melissa McCarthy. In my initial vlog when I first talked about this movie, I was actually pretty lenient towards her performance, I think probably just because I was expecting it to be so much worse, but after going back and rewatching this movie, it's really getting on my nerves just how much she's overacting for this entire film.
Yeah, is it all coming back to you? Go back home to Daddy and never leave again! How's that even possible? Now sing!
Like, yes, Ursula is a theatrical character, but that doesn't mean that she literally screams all of her lines. In the original, Pat Carroll knew when to go big and when to keep it subtle. In fact, some of her most menacing lines are the ones delivered more quietly.
She may be the key to Triton's undoing.
What I want from you is
your voice. Now sing.
Pat Carroll's voice is also much deeper, which helps her to sound more intimidating. She usually only goes for a higher pitch when she's talking to Ariel, most likely to try and make herself appear harmless.
To help unfortunate merfolk like yourself. That's right. I'm not asking much. Just a token, really, a trifle.
In contrast, Melissa McCarthy sounds like this basically throughout the entire movie, making her sound more like a cheap imitation rather than someone who actually understands what made Ursula work as a villain.
Nobody ever puts my things back!
I'll see him wriggle like a worm on a hook.
Don't be a fool, you little brat!
Also, even in this extremely dark lighting, I can still see that the makeup on her looks like absolute shit. Her eyebrows aren't even aligned. What the fuck is that? This looks like something you would expect from a cosplay, not a professional film. Hell, cosplayers do better work than this. $350 million budget, everyone. You know, whatever. It's not like we need to try. It's not like we need to, like, actually put effort into this. Like, who gives a shit? Another thing that also really irritated me about the press surrounding Melissa McCarthy's Ursula was how everyone is making such a big deal over how her portrayal was apparently inspired by drag, which was clearly a response to the anti-drag laws that were being passed in several states around that time. Like, Disney very obviously wanted people to look at that and go, wow, she's so brave for saying that. This remake is making such a statement about queer rights. But what they apparently forgot was that the original Ursula was already inspired by drag. The animators openly talked about how Ursula was modeled after the drag queen Divine. In the behind-the-scenes documentary, they also discussed how nuanced and risky it was for them to do that at the time.
I'm sure that if you went to the Disney executives before they made this movie and said, we're going to have a very large character, I mean, this character is a big character in the movie. It's not some tiny little ingenue part that comes in for a second. And we're going to base it on Divine, and you know who that is. On Dopey Lane, that ain't flying, I'll tell you.
Why should we be celebrating you for just going off of what was already done in the original movie? You have absolutely nothing of value or new to contribute. You are just taking the work of better filmmakers and passing it off as your own to cash in on current trends and events. God! So after Ariel returns home, Triton scolds her for forgetting the the coral moon.
Your sisters are only here for one phase of the coral moon. Can you imagine any one of them missing the gathering?
What? I can't hear you! Another criticism of the original I've heard is that King Triton somehow embodies toxic masculinity in his relationship with Ariel. Granted, I don't know if this criticism had anything to do with why Triton sounds the way he does in the remake, but if they were trying to make him sound less aggressive, they apparently didn't realize that there is a very big difference between speaking in a calm manner and sounding completely bored and disinterested in anything you are doing or saying.
I just want to know more about them.
You know all you need to know. You went to the above world. They killed your mother.
On top of which, just because Triton is an obstacle to what Ariel wants doesn't automatically make him a villain. He isn't doing what he's doing because he wants to control her. He's doing it because he cares about her and genuinely believes that he's doing what's best for her. Now, some people might say that it doesn't really matter how Triton communicates with Ariel in the remake because the end result is more or less the same. The problem is that those people are completely wrong. The anger and urgency in Triton's voice indicates to us that he genuinely cares, and that's what makes us invested in both him and Ariel. But again, in the remake, if Triton constantly sounds like he doesn't give a shit, then why should the audience?
When I do worry, my little one, I do worry.
I do not believe you. In the original, this conversation is very concise. Triton expresses his belief that humans are barbarians, expresses concern over the possibility of Ariel being captured by them, and then demands that she never return to the surface while reminding her of his authority without letting her get a word in.
Not another word! And I am never to hear of you going to the surface again. Is that clear?
This clearly demonstrates to the audience that Triton is a loving father, but also closed-minded and misguided in his judgment of humans. Both of these things are necessary in order for his reconciliation with Ariel at the end to have any emotional weight. But in the remake, the way this argument needlessly drags on is proof that the writers don't know how to effectively communicate any of this.
Why do you have to be so strong-minded, just like your mother?
Why do you have to be so strong-minded? What the hell kind of a line is that? Yes, we need to literally spell out that Ariel is a strong-minded character, just like we need to spell out that Grimsby worries about Eric because our audience is stupid and they cannot figure these things out for themselves. Why would I want to watch a movie that is so blatantly insulting my intelligence? These writers do not give a single shit about what they are doing.
Why do you have to be so strong-minded, just like your mother?
I am her daughter.
Yes, I am her daughter because she is my mother, which makes me her daughter, and you are my father, which makes me also your daughter because you are my father. This is so bad. After this conversation, Ariel becomes upset and leaves, prompting Triton to ask Sebastian if he was too hard on her. In the original, Sebastian is clearly trying to impress his boss by acting like he's an expert on what Ariel needs, which gives Triton the idea that Ariel needs to be placed under constant supervision and that Sebastian is the best one to do it, possibly because he was under the impression that Sebastian was offering himself up for such a position.
Ariel needs constant supervision. Constant. Someone to watch over her, to keep her out of trouble.
All the time.
And you are just the crab to do it.
But in the remake, all Sebastian says is that children need to follow their parents' rules, which honestly makes it seem like Triton's just pushing this job on him out of nowhere. On top of that, when Triton assigns Sebastian to watch over Ariel in the original, the audience can see that he's uncomfortable with this, but he doesn't object to it because he sees his duty to Triton as his top priority. In the remake, Triton continues to force Sebastian to do his bidding even when Sebastian directly says he's not up for it.
I am just the crab to... No, wait, that's not what? No, see, I serve you, your majesty, as your honored major domo. But
yes. Go.
Sebastian is explicitly saying he does not want to be doing this, and Triton makes him do it anyway. Yeah, fuck you, you stupid crab. I don't care what you want. I'm the boss around here. Triton's honestly kind of a dick in this movie. Anyway, Ariel goes to her grotto, and this is where we get the film's iconic I Want song, Part of Your World. And because the remake cut both of the songs that came before this one in the original, this is actually the first song in the live-action remake, which already just feels wrong. Part of Your World is one of the most well-known songs in the entire movie and is central to understanding Ariel's motivations as a character, as well as the depths of her fascination with humans. Although, frankly, it would be much easier to understand those depths if the lighting were good enough to actually let us see the grotto. It feels bizarre that the remake is jumping right into such an important song without anything to go off of beforehand. The song should be part of the main course, not the appetizer, is what I'm getting at here. But rest assured that my issues with the remake's version of this song go far beyond its sequence in the movie. A lot of the beautiful instrumentation that made the original so iconic is completely missing in this version right off the bat.
Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you?
I'm also not a big fan of the way Halle Bailey extends the notes on trove and told, since it makes the verse sound much less conversational.
Look at this trove, treasures untold. Look at this trove, treasures untold.
And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about the filmmakers sacrificing the emotion of the character of Ariel and instead prioritizing Halle Bailey's voice sounding pretty. Well, I guess except for this line.
Wandering free.
What, did you get punched in the stomach while you were recording this?
Free.
When singing in a musical, your job is not just to hit the notes, you also need to convey what the character is feeling. So much of the emotion and personality of the original song is just lost in Halle Bailey's version.
Walking around on those, what do you call them? Oh, feet. Walking around on those, what do you call them? Oh, feet.
This is what I mean when I say Halle Bailey can sing the song, but she can't perform it.
Sometimes she riffed and I thought, okay, you know what? It works here.
Yep, it totally works. It definitely isn't distracting or conflicting with the tone of the song at all. If all I cared about was the song sounding pretty, then I would just stream your music on Spotify. But when I go to see a movie, I am here to watch a character. And it's pretty hard to relate to that character when, in place of perfectly delivered verses, we're given awkwardly belted out notes in completely unnecessary places. Like, there's a part near the end where she holds the notes up above for way too long, and there's a huge pause after where they were obviously expecting people to clap.
Love to explore that shore above.
So beautiful. Slay queen. That childhood. It just goes to show how much more emphasis they're putting on spectacle rather than actual storytelling. In the original, the song ends on a particularly solemn note as Ariel realizes that her most desperate wish may never come true. Notice the way her voice starts to waver and she almost stops singing entirely on the words could be.
Out of the sea, wish I could be.
But in the remake, Halle Bailey is just riffing away, which completely undermines the poignant tone of the ending. This is supposed to be a sad moment, not the time for you to be showing off.
Wish I could be.
Yes, I get it. You have a nice voice. Now, can you please try to actually convey the emotions this song is trying to get across? And that really sums up my issue with this version. It's way too bloated and grandiose for what is supposed to be an intimate and personal song. They're just making changes to it because they can, and not because it actually adds or improves anything. By the way, if you want a little more insight from someone much more knowledgeable about music than I am, I highly recommend checking out Asta Rhymaster's channel. She does a really good job breaking down each of these songs and goes into great detail examining what makes them work in the original and why they don't in the remake. Anyway, in the original, the ending of the song swiftly transitions to the next scene when Sebastian falls down the grotto, leading to him lecturing Ariel over her collection of human objects. In the remake, there honestly isn't much of a transition at all. Like, the song ends and Ariel just sort of sits there for a while until she sees the fireworks coming from the surface. I'm so glad they're really making the most out of the extra 45 minutes they added to the running time. And this leads to another huge problem that the change to Scuttle and subsequently Ariel causes. In the original, when Ariel goes up to see the ship, it's not confusing because it's already been established that that's who she is, that's what she does. If she sees something that piques her interest, she's gonna investigate it, rules be damned. But here, there is no explanation for why she decides to do this. If Ariel's been so committed to obeying her father up until now, then what about this moment is so significant that she decides that this is when she's finally gonna break the rules? Are we seriously supposed to believe that she's never seen or heard something coming from the surface before? Better storytelling my fucking ass! Anyway, Ariel sneaks up to the ship to see the humans on board singing Fathoms Below, which again would have made more sense to put at the beginning of the movie, but I digress. And then Grimsby just decides to be a dick for no reason and tells Eric to stop having fun because it's not how a prince should act.
It's time you separated yourself from the rest of the crew.
But I'm one of them.
And behave in a manner more becoming of a future king.
Like, isn't this supposed to be his birthday party? If you didn't want him to have fun, why did you even organize this in the first place? He sounds like he doesn't even want Eric to be around his crewmates because he's better than them. There's also absolutely no way that you would be able to tell Ariel is supposed to be falling in love with Eric without having seen the original. Like, the dialogue and facial expressions in the original made it very clear that she was falling in love with him. But in the remake, she just looks at him the same way she looks at all the other humans. Like, she's just fascinated by him and interested in what he's doing. There's no indication whatsoever that she feels any kind of a romantic connection to him. I, for one, would be very confused if I'd never seen the original when Ariel started singing about how she wanted to spend the rest of her life with him. Like, oh, is that what was happening? Anyway, a storm suddenly approaches the ship, causing instant chaos among the crew. In the original, the ship caught on fire because it was struck by lightning, while in the remake, Eric manages to run the ship right into a giant rock like a complete idiot, which knocks over a lantern. You know, for someone who supposedly spends too much of his time sailing, you kinda suck at this. So after Eric saves his dog Max, he gets knocked down in the water and almost drowns, but Ariel saves him. I really love how in the original, we see a beam of light shining through the water on the both of them, kinda symbolizing a ray of hope after the darkness of the storm. Of course, that's nowhere to be found in the remake because having the water be so dark you can barely see what's going on is more realistic or something. They also show a statue sinking to the bottom of the ocean, and I'm not really sure if it's supposed to be the statue of Eric. I mean, no one on the ship ever acknowledged it, and it doesn't really look anything like him, so the only conclusion I can come to is that they just tossed it in there at the last minute because it was in the original, even though it's completely lost all of its meaning now. Gee, it's almost like the director of this movie made absolutely no effort to understand why the original was written the way it was. The next scene is another example of this. Ariel's dialogue and facial expressions in the original express a sense of affection and wonder towards Eric, building towards their eventual romance. In the remake, Ariel doesn't express any of this. She just kind of frowns and shakes him, and then he coughs up water all over her face. It's very unintentionally funny. They also changed the conversation that Sebastian has with Flounder about keeping this a secret from Triton so that he's talking to Scuttle instead.
You won't tell him, I won't tell him, and I will stay in one piece, you got it?
Got it. Sorry, what'd you say again?
I cannot for the life of me understand why they changed this. Like, why would Scuttle tell Triton about what Ariel did? It's not like she lives underwater. Has she even met Triton before? Maybe try using your brain for once before you write, you fucking assholes. So now we're approaching the reprise of Part of Your World, and wow, what a shock, all of the romance in the song is completely gone. Once again, they have Hallie belt out notes for the sake of showing off her voice, rather than actually trying to match the emotional beats of the song. Okay, so I'm gonna play you both versions of the reprises of Part of Your World so you can kind of hear the difference and see a little more what I'm talking about.
I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know something's starting right now.
So notice how it starts off very quiet and her voice is very soft, and then slowly as the song goes on, it builds and it gets louder. You know, it starts, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know something, versus in the remake.
I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know.
You know, it's just like, I don't know when, I don't know how. Like, it's just staying the exact same volume throughout the entire thing. And of course, this is followed by more cringy overacting from Melissa McCarthy.
Oh, wait until Daddy finds out. He's gonna hit the surface.
Seriously, what the fuck are these faces she's making? So now we get into the next classic song from the original, Under the Sea. And of course, because this movie sucks, all of the life and energy is completely sucked out of this sequence, both musically and visually. The song was specifically designed to be accompanied by a colorful splash of animation, kinda like a music video. This, of course, is next to impossible to do in live action when you're trying to maintain realism, given that sea creatures don't actually dance and play instruments in real life.
There's a lot of anthropomorphic stuff that happens in that original Under the Sea. There's a fish that looks like an opera singer. There's a fish with a saxophone around its neck. There's lots of stuff that you kind of can't do in this version.
And even though this entire idea was very obviously dead on arrival from the get-go, what's funny is that Rob Marshall clearly thought he was being creative with how he animated the CGI models.
I think that was my first question to Rob, was like, how are you gonna do under the sea? And Rob's answer was, it's carnival.
I remembered that Walt Disney had worked with the Ballet Russe company when he was creating Fantasia, because they needed to work from some template, some kind of movement, some kind of bodies. And so I thought, well, you know what, that's what we should do. We should work with a company. We had chosen all these amazing creatures, fish and wonderful creatures.
There's like seahorses, turtles, mimic octopuses, gannards, all sorts of things. And we're trying to emulate how those creatures would move under the sea.
Animating how sea creatures would really move goes completely against the entire point of the number. The sequence wasn't meant to look realistic, it was meant to look fun. This looks incredibly boring. It's also hilarious watching the behind the scenes clips and seeing the insane lengths they had to go to try and replicate the sequence in live action. Like, did anyone here just stop and look around to be like, you know guys, what are we doing? Right off the bat, you'll also notice that the majority of the percussion in the song that instantly grabs your attention in the original has been removed, making the song sound much weaker and less memorable.
The human world, it's a mess. Life under the sea is better than anything they got up there.
The human world is a mess. Life under the sea is better than anything they got going on up there.
In the original, Sebastian's opening narration was also said in a rhythmic way to flow with the song.
Ariel, listen to me. The human world, it's a mess.
This is, of course, completely ignored in the remake, so all of Sebastian's lines are totally offbeat.
Okay, listen to me. The human world is a mess.
Again, let's compare the two versions.
You dream about going up there, but that is a big mistake.
But that is a big mistake. Again, it's very sharp rhythm, it's very clear. Now let's see what they did in the remake.
You dream about going up there, but that is a big mistake.
That is a big mistake. Like, his rhythm is off there. Like, am I lying when I say that the music in this remake is ass? I mean, whatever, who cares, right? It's not like he's singing or anything, he's just saying words. It's not like anyone's gonna notice. It's not like we need to actually put effort into the music in this musical. Who cares if we completely butcher every single thing that made the original so memorable? You're still gonna go see it. You're still gonna give us money. You're still gonna try and grab onto any small semblance of your childhood to try and escape from the horrors of reality for 2 hours. You're still gonna convince yourself that corporations like us actually give a shit about what you want, and we're not just capitalizing off of your nostalgia and your desire to forget that your only purpose in life is to work a shit job for shit pay until you die alone and unloved with all the joy and passion beating out of you to a bloody pulp. Sorry, I kinda went to a dark place for a second there. Much like Halle Bailey, Daveed Diggs is just singing the song rather than performing it. In the original, Samuel E. Wright sounds genuinely excited about life under the sea, whereas Daveed Diggs just sounds like he's there to hit the notes, get his paycheck, and leave.
Such wonderful things around you. What more is you looking for?
Such wonderful things surround you. What more is you looking for?
To be fair, we know Daveed Diggs is fully capable of singing in character and with energy, so I think Rob Marshall is most likely the one to blame here. Cause, you know, it's like, whatever, people already like the song, it's not like we need to try or anything. On top of which, just listen to how flat the chorus in the remake sounds without the necessary instrumentation, such as the horns and guitar.
Under the sea, under the sea. Darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me.
Under the sea, under the sea. Darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me.
The verses are supposed to be building up to the chorus, but this doesn't sound any different than the beginning of the song. And then on the second chorus, Ariel starts singing along with Sebastian. Like, the entire point of the song is how Ariel shouldn't go after what she wants and she shouldn't go to the surface. This is the complete antithesis of everything that Ariel believes, so why is she singing along to this? Yeah, we just need to show off that Halle Bailey has a pretty voice, and we'll just insert her into every song, even if it makes no narrative sense for a character to be singing along to it. Fuck it, why don't you just have her start singing along to Poor Unfortunate Souls 2 while you're at it? Anyway, after we're treated to some truly awful looking animation of Ariel falling through a group of jellyfish, we get to the bridge of the song where Sebastian starts naming the different sea creatures and the instruments they're playing. But here, since we can't show realistic animals playing instruments, now he's just saying a bunch of things that aren't happening.
The newt play the flute, the cop play the harp, the bass play the bass, and they sounding sharp.
Like, why are you just deciding to be a liar all of a sudden, Sebastian? Hell, they don't even show the animals that are being referenced in the lyrics. It's just Ariel sitting on top of a group of sea turtles. They also completely removed all the different musical cues for each of the different sea creatures. Not only because they're not even shown on screen, but also because the animals in this sequence are there to act as a visual complement rather than their own characters.
He can play the lings on the strings, the child rocking out.
Ray, he can play the lings on the strings, the crowd rocking out.
On a side note, I really do not understand the logic behind why some sea creatures act like sentient beings in this movie and others don't, other than just plot convenience, I guess. The remake also increases the length of the instrumental break after the bridge, but it doesn't feel justified at all given that the visuals are so lacking compared to the original. The only visual choice they made that I kind of like is the bioluminescence. It does genuinely look cool, and it's pretty difficult to pull that off in 2D animation, but it's very brief and certainly doesn't justify this version of the song at all. By the end of the song, you'll notice that the background in the original has a lot more reds and oranges, giving the scene a hotter color scheme as the song builds and gets more energetic. But of course, they couldn't do that in the remake because that's not realistic. Water's blue, you can't have orange water. So the only visual change they could have was just showing more sea creatures on screen. This, again, just goes to show the benefit of making a film like this with animation. You can make the background and characters look as lively and colorful as you want to match the energy of such a fun song. But when you're restrained by the limits of what looks realistic, it just looks dead and uninteresting by comparison. Yeah, okay, you tried. Just wrap this up with a horrible line read and let's go home already.
Somebody got to nail that girl's fins to the floor.
So next we have a really boring conversation with Eric and his mom where he's like, I wanna find the girl that saved me. I'm gonna go out and look for her. And she's like, no, you're not allowed. No more sailing for you.
You're not leaving this castle until you're feeling better.
I'll feel better when I find her.
Why were you even wearing that bandage? You didn't even have a wound or anything. In the original, Eric's conversation with Grimsby about Ariel was extremely short. It was basically just a way to communicate that he was still thinking about her and that she was just as important to him as he was to her. But in the remake, as a way to try to add depth to Eric's character, we need to have pointless, drawn-out conversations that really just end up communicating the exact same information about Eric as in the original anyway, just in a much more convoluted and boring way. Again, we already saw the parallels between him and Ariel as far as his motivations for going against norms and expectations. Just making a scene longer doesn't automatically make it more complex if you're not actually going to say anything interesting. Anyway, next we get the first new song in the movie, and it's at this point that I should talk about Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote these songs with returning composer Alan Menken. You may also recall that Miranda and Rob Marshall previously worked together on Mary Poppins Returns, cause we all remember how great that movie was. Yeah, fuck this let's go fly a kite bullshit. You know what a Mary Poppins movie really needs? Long conversations about bank foreclosures and a cliche stock villain. Brilliant. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say that I actively dislike Lin-Manuel Miranda's writing style, but good God, his work has been getting on my nerves lately, especially when it comes to his projects with Disney. Mary Poppins Returns was awful, the songs and content were very hit or miss, and I think there's no better example of him at his absolute worst than the songs he wrote for this movie. And no matter how much respect or admiration he claims to have for the original film, that didn't stop him from completely missing the mark on every single one of these original compositions. Especially
Ariel's marriage material, time for the rice and the dress and the Woody.
Seriously, I guarantee that even if you went into the remake knowing absolutely nothing about the animated film, you would still easily be able to pick out which songs are from the original and which are from the remake. The difference in quality is that jarring. Hell, Miranda even straight up admitted from the start that nothing he wrote was ever going to be able to compare to the songs in the original. Which begs the question, if you already know that you're not going to be able to add anything of significant value to the story, then why bother doing it in the first place?
We've got to have money.
Yeah, I know.
I revere that original movie so much. I said, if this movie doesn't need new songs, let's not shoehorn them in.
It was really important to find an additional song for Ariel because she only had one in the original film.
Yeah, we're gonna respect the original by not shoehorning in songs where they're not needed, except we're actually gonna do the exact opposite of that and give Ariel more songs, even if they don't add anything of significant narrative value to the film, because she just needs more songs. I don't care where, we just need to hear Halle Bailey's voice more. What makes this especially baffling is that there was already a slew of additional songs that they could have used from the Broadway musical. I mean, not that those songs were anything spectacular either, but they at least sound like they belong with the original songs. But nope, we clearly need Lin-Manuel Miranda to write either Blanche Schlopper, the most annoying fucking garbage ever recorded by man. Anyway, the first of these compositions is Wild Uncharted Waters, a ballad written for Prince Eric to sing about his desire to find Ariel. And right off the bat, the awkward transition into the song highlights both its pointlessness and Miranda's inability to start a song like this in a natural way. In the original, just about all of the songs start at a place of heightened emotion, where the character needs to express themselves in a way they can't do with dialogue alone.
It is something totally different. The characters actually run out of words, can't express themselves anymore, and it has to come out in song.
In fact, the dialogue leading into the number is actually included in the soundtrack for most of the original songs because it's that integral to the composition itself.
Maybe he's right. Maybe there is something the matter with me. I just don't see how a world that makes such wonderful things could be bad.
Ariel, listen to me. The human world, it's a mess. Life under the sea is better than anything they got up there.
The only way to get what you want is to become a human yourself.
Can you do that?
But for this piece, the transition is much more abrupt and unnatural. He just gets up and leaves the conversation with his mom and Grimsby like, okay, I guess I'm done talking to you. I'm gonna go walk outside and sing my song now. Bye.
We wanted to make songs that would tell the story, songs that would really move the story forward, really push the plot along and keep things driving ahead. So it's not like you stop and sing a song.
And lyrically, this song really doesn't have much to offer. It's basically him just saying a bunch of things that we already know.
I was darkness bound, I had almost drowned, till you came around and you found me.
Yes, thank you for summarizing what we literally just saw like 15 minutes ago. There's nothing clever or interesting about the wordplay, the lyrics are incredibly cliche. This honestly sounds like it was written by a 14-year-old who'd never written a song before in their life. What insight into Eric's character is this giving us? What is driving his obsession with Ariel? What was going through his head when he heard her singing? What's he gonna do when he finds her? None of this is explored in this song at all. I don't feel like I understand Eric better as a character after the song. Hell, I feel like I know him even less after it. By comparison, let's take a listen to a few verses from Her Voice, Prince Eric's ballad from the Broadway musical.
I can sense her laughter in the ripple of the waves against the shoreline. I can see her smiling in the moonlight as it settles on the sand.
Now let's go back to Wild Uncharted Waters.
Now all I am is haunted as days and hours roll by. All I ever think about is you. All I do is wonder who you are and where you'll be.
Both verses are communicating the same idea, namely, I can't stop thinking about you, but Her Voice uses much more vivid imagery, comparing her voice and face to the ripples of the waves and moonlight on the sand. All I ever think about is you, and all I do is wonder who you are sound much more dull and blunt by comparison. Was that really the best way you could think to put that? Seriously, every single one of the sequences for the original songs would have been improved so much if they just used the Broadway numbers instead. On a side note, it also doesn't help that Miranda rhymes me with me a billion times.
And you're finally real here beside me. I'm right where you left me. And your voice is like a siren that guides me along, just you and me. There's no map or compass to guide me.
You are an award-winning songwriter, Lynn. This should not be hard. There isn't even anything visually interesting done in this number. The majority of it is just Eric walking around the front of his castle and bending over and making these faces like he's constipated. I mean, there's a scenery shift at the end where we see him sailing on his ship, but it's not like we haven't seen that before. And look, Jonah Hauer-King is not a bad singer by any means, but he really doesn't have the vocal chops to belt out these loud notes at the end, which makes the auto-tune very noticeable.
But I'm still lost at sea. There's no map or compass to guide me again.
The the instrumentation by Alan Menken is pretty, and the concept for the song isn't terrible in theory. It's just a shame that they do absolutely nothing with it. Overall, the song isn't terrible, but much like Evermore from the Beauty and the Beast remake, it's very bland and forgettable, and is very obviously only there so they could try and get a Best Original Song nomination, which thank God did not happen. It adds nothing to the movie, and it would have saved us all a huge waste of time if they'd just cut it. So after that, we cut back to Ariel and her sisters who are cleaning up a shipwreck. They added more boring dialogue that sounds completely stupid.
It will take thousands of years for this coral to grow back, and they've killed nearly all of the sea fern.
They'd kill us too if they had the chance.
No, they're not all like that.
Yeah, great read on that line there, Hallie. We totally don't need to do a second take of that at all. Nope, it's fine. And they also added in that humans killed Ariel's mother, and that's the reason that Triton won't let anyone go to the surface.
They killed your mother.
I know.
Because apparently humans eating fish and constantly throwing their shit in the ocean isn't enough of a reason for Triton to hate them, so now we need to add a tragic backstory into the mix. I guess Disney thinks that giving characters tragic backstories for their dead moms is just the end-all be-all of character development. How original. And then when Ariel leaves, her sisters start talking about how she clearly must be distracted because she's in love.
Well, I wonder who the lucky merman is.
What about anything in that interaction indicated that Ariel was in love with anyone? She's behaving no differently than she was before she saved Eric. In the original, Ariel was a lot happier and carefree. It was very obvious that something had changed. Where is the difference in Ariel's attitude here? What has changed? Nothing! If you're trying to build up to the scene later on where Triton questions Sebastian about Ariel's change in behavior, then you need to actually show a change in behavior. I mean, okay, it doesn't have to be as cartoony as Ariel literally picking flower petals, but they could have at least shown her, happier, more content. Like, what, is the fact that you had to call her name a couple of times before she responded supposed to indicate that she's changed? Is that what you were trying to convey? Rob Marshall is clearly just picking and choosing what scenes he wants to keep from the original with absolutely no thought as to how it affects future scenes down the line. The scenes in the original follow a logical flow with one action causing a reaction, which is, the bare minimum you would expect from a relatively competent script. If you want to get rid of a scene in the remake, fine, but you need to take into account how it's going to affect other scenes as well and make the necessary changes. If you're not going to show a clear shift in Ariel's behavior, then you need to come up with some other reason as to why Triton starts grilling Sebastian about her. Otherwise, none of this is going to make any sense to the audience. They did not give a single fuck about the writing. Yeah, whatever, people already know the story. It's not like the writing has to make sense. It's just a fairy tale. Who cares? Thank you, Rob. This truly is better storytelling. Yeah, don't you just love how every change from the original is just so well thought out and, totally improves the story? So good, guys. It's so good! Anyway, so after that flawless build-up, Triton as one of his guards brings Sebastian to him for questioning.
The crab, Your Majesty.
Wow, you're not even gonna refer to him by his name? He's just the crab? And why are they already treating him like he's done something wrong? Triton doesn't know anything about Eric at this point. He just thinks Ariel has a crush and is curious about who it is. In the original, Triton was lightly teasing. It was Sebastian's own paranoia that led him to crack. Why is Triton acting all menacing and intimidating here for no reason? Working for Triton honestly seems like a really shitty job. They also toned down Sebastian's high-pitched voice for the remake, which makes this joke a lot less funny.
Yes. Yes, Your Majesty.
Yes. Yes, Your Majesty.
It's like they're trying to ruin everything good about the original. So after Sebastian confesses that Ariel saved a human, Triton goes to confront her. And you can really tell how angry he is from all the incredibly powerful emotion in his voice and facial expressions.
You broke the rules. You went to the above world. You should have let him drown. They're savages.
Even ignoring the atrocious acting from both parties in this scene, the writing in the original conveys both of their motivations much more clearly. Here, Ariel doesn't even say that she loves Eric, she just goes on about how kind and compassionate he is, so there's no indication that she wants to be with him. And then Triton just kind of makes this sound like he's having an aneurysm and starts destroying her stuff.
I swear I will get through to you.
Seriously, what the hell was he even saying there?
I swear I will get through to you.
Get through you. Also, do you remember how devastating it was when Triton destroyed the grotto in the original? The color scheme completely changes and we get a bunch of close-ups of Ariel and Sebastian's horrified expressions, as well as all of the objects being destroyed. It's incredibly impactful and you really feel the weight of what Ariel has lost by the end. So let's see how the remake fucked this one up.
Father, stop!
This ends now.
This is no.
Please, stop it!
It's for your own good.
He blasts like maybe 2 or 3 spots in the grotto and it all just looks like a bunch of horrible CGI rubble. You can't even see what's being destroyed. Not to mention we don't know if the statue was even supposed to be Eric or not, so now the significance of it being destroyed is completely gone. At the end of the scene in the original, before Triton leaves, he takes one last look at Ariel as she breaks down crying, clearly sad and remorseful that he's done something that upset her so much. In the remake, there is absolutely no emotion in Triton's face whatsoever.
Never leave again.
He's like, I don't give a fuck that you're sad, you stupid teenage girl. Whatever, I'm the king. Get over it. Why? This scene is so important in the original because it highlights the main themes of the film, particularly surrounding Ariel and Triton's relationship. Even though they clearly care about each other, there is still a level of distrust and misunderstanding that they have to work through by the end of the film. Both Ariel and Triton have their own flaws that they need to overcome in order to remedy their relationship. Ariel is impulsive and reckless, which she ends up facing consequences for by the end of the film. But for all her faults, Triton is also overly controlling and quick to judgment, which drives Ariel away from him. Look at Ariel's reaction when Triton first enters the grotto in this scene. She's actually afraid of him. She's scared of her own father. Both she and Triton make mistakes that lead to Ursula getting control of the trident later in the film. It's not as simple as Triton's the father, so he's always in the right. Ariel has just as much to learn from him as he does from her. When Ursula takes control at the end, there's not one person at fault here. It's a combination of Ariel's impulsiveness, Triton's unwillingness to listen, and Ursula's manipulation that leads them there. Both Ariel and Triton have to grow and evolve to fix their relationship, and ultimately they learn to set aside their differences, and Triton his hatred of humans, because the love that they have for each other is more important. Ariel and Triton's relationship in the remake is so rushed and half-assed that what was once the emotional heart of the film is now an afterthought at best. Why? So now Flotsam and Jetsam come in, except they don't talk in this version for some reason. So instead they create some kind of magical Zoom call bubble for Ursula to talk through. They also decided to add in the fact that Ursula is Triton's sister.
Who are you?
Oh, you must not remember me. I'm your Auntie Ursula.
This was a plot point that was actually supposed to be included in the original film, but was cut due to time constraints. And I actually don't mind them including this in the remake, since it makes sense that Ursula being a family member would make it easier for her to manipulate Ariel. I just wish she didn't do it in such a goddamn stupid-ass voice.
Oh, I know what you're going through, believe me.
I know what you're going through, believe me. Why do you sound like a 90-year-old man all of a sudden? Now, a lot of people who criticize Ariel's character will argue that Ariel is selfish and stupid for agreeing to make a deal with Ursula here. But keep in mind that Ursula is not picking this particular moment to go after Ariel for no reason. Ariel has just lost her most prized possessions that she spent her entire life collecting. Everything in her grotto is completely gone and she's devastated. It's pretty obvious that she's not going to be thinking straight and therefore much easier for Ursula to manipulate. And even then, she still initially refuses. It's only after Flotsam and Jetsam taunt her with a shattered fragment of Eric's face and remind her of what she'll be missing out on if she refuses that she accepts. In the remake, there is no indication of what makes Ariel change her mind after she tells Ursula to leave. She just pauses for a bit and is like, actually, you know what, never mind, you're just too persuasive. So then we get this very drawn-out sequence of Ariel making her way to Ursula's lair because they really needed to show off all of the amazing landscapes in this film. We have dark waters where you can't see shit, and more dark waters where you can't see shit. It's realistic. Obvious lame-ass jump scare in 3, 2, 1. And now we get to the heart of the problem with Melissa McCarthy's overacting in this role. There is nothing subtle about it. at all. In the original, Ursula did her best to appear reformed in front of Ariel. Like, yeah, she did some bad stuff in the past, but now she just wants to help people. She's harmless. And when Ariel's gone, we see the contrast of her real vengeful and conniving personality. But here, there is literally no difference between Melissa McCarthy's Ursula when she's talking to Ariel and when she's by herself, which honestly just makes lines like this unintentionally hilarious.
You don't seem at all like Father described you.
Really? Because unless Triton told you Ursula was a giant fucking ray of sunshine and rainbows, I'm pretty sure she's exactly like how he would have described her. Anyway, so Ursula insists that she can help Ariel become human, and this leads us to yet another song from the original that was completely obliterated in the remake, Poor Unfortunate Souls. Now, one big difference you might notice right off the bat is that they changed the key of the song from F minor to E minor because Melissa McCarthy couldn't hit some of the lower notes in the original song.
I admit that in the past I've been a nasty. They weren't kidding when they called me, well, a witch.
I admit that in the past I've been a nasty. They weren't kidding when they called me, well, a witch.
I think this is a really unfortunate change because the lower registers of Pat Carroll's voice just make her sound so much more devious and sinister despite what she's saying. For what many people consider to be one of the best Disney villain songs, you want to keep those undertones. But instead, McCarthy tries to compensate for it by stretching out her voice and overacting in the most ridiculous sounding way possible.
I've mended all my ways. It's a talent that I always use in pain. And I'm afraid I had to rake 'em across the coals.
Across the coals! There's not even any real logic behind which verses she decides to completely overperform. In the original, when Ursula is singing about the people she punished for not being able to pay her, she delivers this verse subtly because it's not something she wants Ariel to think too much about.
Now it's happened once or twice. Someone couldn't pay the price, and I'm afraid I had to rake 'em across the coals.
Only when she starts emphasizing that she's helping people does she go bigger in on her performance.
Yes, I've had the odd complaint, but on the whole, I've been a saint. To those poor unfortunate souls.
She's like, yeah, I had to do some bad stuff to a couple people, but whatever, it's fine, it's no big deal, don't worry about it. But in the remake, she's practically flaunting it.
And I'm afraid I had to rake 'em across the coals.
Across the coals! Like, if you're trying to convince Ariel that you're a good and trustworthy person, isn't the fact that you turn people into lifeless plant eyeball thingies something you wouldn't want to emphasize too much? That seems like a pretty significant downside to this agreement, Ursula. I mean, yes, Pat Carroll does do that affectation as well in the original song, but it's much less often and only on lines where it actually makes sense to do.
They come flocking to my cauldron crying, spells, Ursula, please.
See, in that line, it made sense because she's mimicking her victims, so a condescending tone is justified. But here, Melissa McCarthy is just picking and choosing where to overact at random. Could they seriously not have found someone to dub over her? I mean, was it just so imperative that Melissa McCarthy had to be the one singing this song they had to change everything about the key and delivery of it to make it happen?
Why?
Hell, even the way she sings the very first line in the song indicates that she doesn't understand the intent behind the verses or why it was written the way it was. The opening verse is meant to be a comedic way of Ursula downplaying her evil in the past. You can practically hear her smirking in the original song when she sings the word witch, almost as if she finds the title cute.
They weren't kidding when they called me, well, a witch.
But in the remake, Melissa McCarthy sings these lines with disdain because I guess there's this unfunny ongoing joke where Ursula doesn't like being called a witch for some reason.
They weren't kidding when they called me, well, a witch.
The sea witch?
The what?
So funny. Why would Ursula be mad at people calling her a witch? Does this seem like a character that cares what people think about her? These verses are meant to convey Ursula's personality. She's meant to come off as incredibly self-assured, not thin-skinned like in the remake. But I think the most egregious example of this is this verse where Ursula is describing the mermaids she helps. She's trying to portray herself to Ariel as a benevolent savior, but there's a brief moment where she delivers a line on the side to Flotsam and Jetsam and her true colors show.
Of the miserable, lonely, and depressed, pathetic.
But in the remake, because Flotsam and Jetsam don't talk for some reason, she just says the word pathetic out loud, right in front of Ariel.
Of the miserable, lonely, and depressed, pathetic.
Why would you do that? Ursula doesn't actually want Ariel to know that she thinks the people she's supposedly helping are pathetic. Why would she trust her after that? That's just giving your whole facade away. I mean, it's not like you couldn't have done something different with that line if you wanted. Like, I don't know, maybe you could have her cough and mutter it under her breath or something. Or even if Flotsam and Jetsam don't talk, that doesn't mean you can't still have Ursula say things to them. Hell, we literally see her talking to them later in the song! So why couldn't they have just kept it like it was in the original? Was it seriously lost on every single person who worked on this musical number that that line was said off to the side for a reason? I mean, good God, at least in the case of The Lion King 2019, Jon Favreau had the excuse of never having worked on a musical before, I mean, aside from the other shitty-ass live-action remake he did. But both Rob Marshall and Lin-Manuel Miranda have been working in musical theater for their entire careers. How can you be making mistakes this amateur? What are you doing, Rob? I also hate how overbearing the instrumentation and visuals are right at the beginning.
Poor unfortunate souls in pain, in need.
Poor unfortunate souls in pain, in need.
Like, the song is not supposed to be this loud here. It's supposed to build until we get to Ariel signing the contract. You know, the part where the plot moves forward and there's actual suspense where that intensity is justified. You can't just make this song loud and flashy whenever you want. These things have to be earned, Rob.
And do I help him? Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed.
But on the whole, I've been a saint.
So then we get to Ursula explaining her deal with Ariel. In the original, the music completely stops when Ariel hesitates.
Have we got a deal?
If I become human, I'll never be with my father or sisters again.
Well, in the remake, there's still continuous strings underlying the whole bit, because God forbid we have even a single moment of quiet. There's always got to be some kind of noise to keep the audience's attention, like we're dangling car keys in front of a baby's face.
We got a deal?
I don't know.
Also in the original, Ariel voices concern for her family, showing how much she loves them and cares for them despite their differences. But in the remake, there's no indication of why Ariel hesitates. She just says, "This is wrong, I can't do this," and starts to leave until Ursula starts screaming at her again.
Go back home to Daddy and never leave again!
Like, if this is the version of Ariel that's supposed to be quote-unquote less selfish, why wouldn't you show her caring about her family? If anything, this version makes it seem like her family is the reason she does want to leave in the first place.
Go back home to Daddy and never leave again!
On second thought, you're right. Fuck those guys. Our hero, everyone. They also cut out the part of the song where Ursula talks about why Ariel giving up her voice is a good thing.
Yet on land it's much preferred for ladies not to say a word, and after all, dear, what is idle prattle for?
And Poor Unfortunate Souls was also revised to avoid perpetuating an idea that girls shouldn't speak their mind.
Actually, Melissa, you can't say that because it's 2023 and that's sexist. And Ursula saying that Ariel should give up her voice so she can get a man is reductive, and Disney should actually be ashamed of themselves for even releasing this, because it's sending the message to little girls that their only purpose in life is to please men, and you're stupid for defending this movie, actually. Even though A, this is the villain saying this, and B, the only reason she's saying it is because she's trying to manipulate Ariel into accepting her deal. I really don't see how anyone in their right mind could watch this scene and legitimately think that Disney is honestly promoting the idea that girls shouldn't talk. Just in the same way I don't see how someone could watch Be Prepared and be like, wow, I can't believe Disney is endorsing Nazism. These are the villain songs. They're supposed to have sinister elements to them. It doesn't mean the filmmakers are saying it's okay in real life. Are you honestly so stupid that you can't tell the difference between portraying evil and condoning it? Here at Disney, we respect our audience's intelligence. We like to ask big questions and make our audiences think outside the box and consider new perspectives. But don't worry, we'll get rid of every little thing in this song that might make you feel even the slightest bit uncomfortable because you're a dumb little baby that needs your hand held at all times. You're welcome. So instead of that whole section of the song, we just get this brief bit where the number basically comes to a halt so Ursula can explain that Ariel will lose her voice.
And you'll no longer have that siren song of yours. Because that wouldn't be fair now, would it?
What wouldn't be fair? Since when was this about fair? Ursula just wanted to make it seem like she needed some form of payment for the spell. She didn't actively want Ariel to know that she was deliberately trying to stop her from getting the prince to kiss her. She's supposed to be pretending to be on Ariel's side here. Also in the original, even when Ursula was just talking in the song, there was still a rhyme scheme and a meter to the verses.
Yet on land it's much preferred for ladies not to say a word, and after all, dear, what is idle prattle for?
On land, it's much preferred for ladies not to say a word, and after all, there's still a very distinct rhythm. It's very clear. Versus in the remake,
You won't have this tail of yours hanging around dragging you down. You won't be able to breathe underwater. Who needs it?
yeah, but you know, whatever, it's fine. It's not like we need to like write a rhyme scheme or a meter or anything, or she's just saying words. Like, we don't need to do anything for this. Who gives a shit? Another thing they got rid of was the part where Ariel signs Ursula's contract, and the only reason for this that I can fathom is that they wanted to fix the quote-unquote plot hole where people were like, well, if Ariel knows how to sign her name, then why didn't she just write a letter to Eric explaining what was happening? So instead of Ariel signing a scroll, they have her literally rip out one of her scales and put a drop of her blood into the cauldron.
Like a scale from off your tail, a drop of blood inside the bowl.
Call me crazy, but I kind of preferred it when the most gruesome thing in this Disney fairy tale was the slapstick with Chef Louis, not Ariel making a literal sacrifice of flesh. You might as well just have had Ursula literally cut out Ariel's tongue like in the original story if that's how you're gonna do it. The pacing of the song at this point is also much slower than in the original, which completely gets rid of all the suspense and urgency.
If you want to cross a bridge, my sweet, you've got to pay the toll. Take a gulp and take a breath and go ahead and sign the scroll.
If you want to cross the bridge, my sweet, you've got to pay the toll. Like a scale from off your tail, a drop of blood inside the bowl.
In the original, Ursula is very clearly trying to rush Ariel into accepting the deal before she has time to really think about it. Whereas here, the pacing isn't that much faster than the beginning of the song. I mean, what, could Melissa McCarthy just not sing fast enough either? Also, just look at how intense these shots here are at the end and how perfectly cut they are to match each beat of the song.
This poor, unfortunate soul.
Compare that with a remake where all the beats are still there, but now the visuals don't match with them at all. We just get a single slow shot of Ariel reaching for her scale.
This poor,
There's no close-up of Ursula's face, there's no shot of Ariel squeezing her eyes shut and looking away while quickly sealing the deal before she has time to regret it. How am I supposed to feel overwhelmed or scared for Ariel here? All of the urgency and speed of the original is gone, and at the end of it all, this seems like a very deliberate, calculated decision on her part, not one made out of fear and desperation. And if you thought Melissa McCarthy's overacting was unbearable before... Can you please not scream all of your lines for 5 minutes? I also hate how they changed the animation of Ariel's transformation. In the original, you get a clear shot of what looks like Ariel's tail being ripped in half to form legs.
In the Anderson story, when the mermaid walked, she left bloody footprints on it. We didn't really want to do that, but we did want to make this transition where she got her legs feel a little bit painful in an homage, I mean, almost to the Anderson thing.
In the remake, they just show a cloud of dust or something surrounding her, and then bam, all of a sudden she's got legs. It's just so toned down and boring. Unsurprisingly, they also completely botched the iconic shot of Ariel popping out of the water. Like, that hair flip did not look natural at all. And just to add insult to injury, because this movie hasn't caused me enough pain already, they add this stupid-ass subplot in.
And just in case I slipped a little something extra into that spell of mine, no matter how hard that girl tries, she won't remember she needs to get that kiss.
What? So apparently in this version, Ursula changes the spell so that Ariel forgets that she has to get the prince to kiss her? Why? What is the purpose of that? The whole reason why Ariel is forced to take responsibility for her actions in the end is because Ursula was completely honest with her. She told her exactly what was going to happen, and she still agreed to the deal anyway. And Ursula told her the truth about the deal because she was that confident that Ariel wasn't going to be able to do it. It was only after the kiss the girl sequence that she realized she underestimated Ariel and that she needed to intervene. But here, if you're going to be this dishonest with her from the get-go, then why even bother telling Ariel that she needed to get the prince to kiss her in the first place? Why not just lie and be like, yep, you'll be a human forever, don't have to do anything, have fun, bye. It makes no sense! I wish I could say I was surprised by the complete incompetence of this entire production, but I've already gotten pretty used to this dumb shit from Disney's live action department. Honestly, the problems with these remakes are so routine you could practically make a bingo card out of them at this point. CGI models of cartoon characters that don't translate well to live action at all, check. Lifeless animation, check. Atrocious special effects, check. Ugly cinematography, check. Butchering every single one of the songs, check. Trying to fix plot holes only to add a billion more things that don't make sense, check. Misinterpreting basic elements of the plot, check. Padding out the runtime by adding a bunch of unnecessary bullshit, check. Why? Please. Please just stop. I can't take it anymore. No more. No more, please. It's so bad. Why is it all so terrible? Please just make it stop. Make it stop!
Make it stop! Make it stop!
Stop it, please, I beg you!
Lin-Manuel Miranda, but nope, we clearly need Lin-Manuel. But nope, we clearly need Lin-Manuel. Oh my god. And I have to say, Lin-Manuel. No. At least Lin-Manuel. Oh my god. At least Lin-Manuel. Why am I having a hard time saying this? At least nope. And Jesus fucking Christ. Okay. Lin-Manuel Miranda. And kill me now.